Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Bebop here. Today's video, we're going to be talking about the Greatsword and Hatchet combo people have been asking me about on my last Greatsword and Hatchet video that was a few months back. There has been some changes and updates and things I would recommend, so let's get right into it. And just as a principle, if you're new to the game, a lot of new players are coming to the game right now, you need to realize in PvE that Enchanted Ward and Refreshing are going to be your main two perks pretty much on every piece of clothing, right? Well, you can max out at 4 Refreshing, so you only need 4, but Enchanted Ward, the negative 4% damage from light and heavy attacks. Most, 99% of the enemies in PvE are going to be doing light and heavy attacks. That's what they're coded to do. So this is going to be your main ward for PvE. For PvP, you want a mixture of Enchanted Ward and Elemental Aversion, and that will help you out in PvP. Make sure in every build that you want to do in PvE, if you're running a hive, you have Enchanted Ward, okay? Just want to stress that over and over. Now, the Greatsword Hatchet combo, I'm not a big fan of anymore. I'm more of a fan of the Duneborn Hook, or, I think the Sporelight Hatchet comes with a Refreshing Move and Vicious, and you can put Keen Berserk on there. I'm more of a fan of running this with Inferno, and Inferno is the fire staff that scales off of strength. So if I can find it here in the loadouts, so the Inferno scales off of strength, and it can do end, but if you have a hatchet, it goes really good with that at 350 strength. I put Empowering Fireball on mine because it's just a lot of damage for an easy ability to go ahead and add burn dots, do quick burst damage with the fire staff. And also it's going to allow you to do 15% more damage with both weapons if you're close within the enemy. So if you're within 15 meters of the target, you'll do 15% more damage, which is where you should be. So I'm more of a fan of this setup than I am the Greatsword and Hatchet, but the Greatsword and Hatchet is good in the hive. For the Greatsword being, you can use it on mobs because it's got great cleave damage and widespread attacks after the first swing. The first swing is going to be an overhead hit, and then the next two will be side to side, so it can really hit a lot of mobs and do good group damage. And then the first boss in the hive, you want to do a lot of stamina damage. You at least have 1 or 2 people doing stamina damage in there, so that way you can go ahead and get the boss down. That way you have access to the back, and you could do your most damage there. On the second boss, the Greatsword is too slow for the second boss. He moves too much. The Hatchet is the preferred way to go on the second boss. Now, on the mob phase, you could choose whether you want to go back to Greatsword or stay on the Hatchet. The Greatsword is good if everything's clumped up, but if the bird or the wolves are by themselves, then you need to probably stay on the Hatchet. There'll be a call on your part as you're playing. And just know, if the wolves are about to try to pin you down, you can berserk, and if you have the skill tree how I'm about to show you, then you will not be interrupted. You will not be pinned down, because if the wolves pin you down and then you get the red ring spikes, you're going to get yourself killed and maybe others killed. So the last boss, you can use the Greatsword or the Hatchet for, you can just throw at the boss with Rending Throw. And if you have the skill tree set, you can just hold block, because you won't have block anymore with this skill tree, and you can just sit there and constantly throw. Okay, now the Greatsword is obviously good on the eggs, so if you get the eggs to spawn, you can take out the eggs really quickly with the Greatsword, but any slash damage will work, so the Hatchet is just fine. If you have the Duneborn Hatchet, I would recommend just running that at the final boss and have the Artifact Rapier, or some sort of, or Aconite or Inferno actually, so you have some range, so you take out the blooms or whatnot. So let's go over the gear that I have right here for running the hive. A lot of people you're going to have physical ward gems in your gear, and that's what you should have if you're a new player. You could do these also if you're going to be melee. Punishing physical ward, physical damage absorption is 2%. Your melee attacks deal 1% more damage. So that's a way to add damage. You could put these rune glasses in your gear, but not in your jewelry. Okay, so in your jewelry, a lot of times people will have the regular onyxes, the cut pristine onyxes in the jewelry to give you the 2.5% physical protection. Okay, and then you would just change out your amulet on each boss. The first boss would be a strike amulet you would go with. Okay, strike protection, health and empowered would be bis, but anything with empowered and protection is what you're going to want. The second boss, you'll have a slash amulet that you'll put on, and for the final boss you'll have a nature amulet, okay, because there's a lot of nature damage on the final boss. So if you don't know about amulets and the protections, I have a video on the most important perks for all the clothing and the weapon, jewelries, everything on my YouTube. The heart rune, I would just always run cunning heart rune of firestorm. If you feel like you need vines on the second boss, that's just fine, go ahead and switch to that. But the gear is going to have enchanted ward and refreshing on a lot of it. Now I want you to have refreshing torrent on your clothing. Each hit of the raging torrent reduces all hatchet cooldowns by 5.5%. now the thing with the hatchet is you want your uptime on berserk as much as possible, so anything that helps cooldowns, that's why I put refreshing move on my hatchet, which is the Duneborn hook, vicious refreshing move, and keen berserk. And then if you are gonna run the Freya, I put disdain infliction on there. Then you would go ahead and have keen berserk on the clothing. 13% critical chance and 13% more crit damage while berserk is active. If it's on the weapon, it jumps up to 21 and 21 instead of 13. So the Freya you get out of the Genesis mutation dungeon, and this is a very, very fast cooldown weapon. So either one, if you haven't got access to the Sandworm and the Duneborn hook, I would just run Freya. I would run it with keen berserk on the clothing, as you see here, with an enchanted ward and refreshing. Have a piece with refreshing torrent, enchanted ward, refreshing, and that's what I would definitely go with. I wouldn't worry too much about, you know, slowing rupture or whatnot with the serenity. I mean, it can help on the mobs, but I mean, I just feel like it's, I mean, if you want to biss it out, I mean, sure, but like I said before, I would rock Inferno over this build, you know, this setup. But if you like the Greatsword at times mixed in with the hatchet, there you go. So I have on the chest piece, I have the Sandworm chest piece, which is Keen, Enchanted Ward, and Shuriken Energy. This is a legal perk that's on a chest. That's because it's from the Sandworm, so it's really good to have. That way I get the extra critical chance. If you have Keen on your weapon and Keen on your shirt, it will not stack. But if you have Keen Awareness on your ring and Keen Awareness on your shirt, it will. So I'm just having a lot more chances of doing criticals. Enchanted Ward and Refreshing is basically a 2-perker here. I got the Attuned Leather Pants, which is going to give me the 11% or 11 attributes to all attributes plus 11. So that's really good. You can also do the Crown, which does the same thing, and you can put Enchanted Ward on the Crown. You just have to switch up your gear some, and I've played for so long, I'm just going to leave it how it is right now. The feet I have right here are Elemental Aversion and Enchanted Wards, illegal perk combos from the Sandworm, and so that's the only way you can get those 2 protections on one piece of clothing. This perk is a dead perk right now because on this setup does not matter. You could put Slowing Rupture on your feet or Relentless Freedom. That will help give you the extra critical chance or whatnot when you do Relentless Rush with the Greatsword. And then I have protections. I'm running an elemental band just because the keen awareness, hardy, and leeching. And then for the earring, important. You know, when you're running the greatsword, anytime you're in onslaught position, which is the aggressive position, you're going to take in 15% more damage. That's 15% more damage. So having fortifying toast on the earring is really good. Refreshing toast and nimble. So you want to have fortified toast instead of empowering toast, because if you have serenity, you're going to have basically 10 stacks if you're using it constantly of offensive. So let's see, in offensive stance, 2% empower per attack, max 10 stacks. You're going to get to empower cap really quickly with serenity, so you don't need to worry about having slash damage on a ring or anything like that. You'll have your coatings, you'll have leadership from the tank, hopefully, it depends on what hive you're in, and you know, your honing stone and all that good stuff. So you'll be just fine. If you don't have serenity, make sure you have trenchant strikes on a greatsword. And if you don't have serenity, I wouldn't use the greatsword at all. It's not worth it. It's going to be a DPS loss, and it's just a waste of time. I do have a moonstone build for the greatsword serenity that does more damage and is a lot more simplistic. It's on my YouTube. Feel free to search that one out, or I'll try to link it in the comments. And make sure you have your protections in your earring correct. I ended up running a dungeon or something. I don't know why this opal was in here. I think I was doing Savage last night, so I ended up putting that in there for, I think, the final boss, something like that. So it has the opal. You would want cut pristine onyxes in all the clothing and gear here. We just change out your amulets for the boss fight. Let's get to the stats real quick. Now, with Serenity, you want to run 350 dex, 25 int, 50 con or so, 25 or 50 con, and then the rest strength. Okay, now it's different in the hive than, let's say, M3s. M3s, to get more damage out of the greatsword, you would go split stack. But here in the hive, the first boss doesn't have a back until you knock them. The second boss has a back, but it's a small hitbox and moves a lot. And the mobs also move a lot on the second boss fight. And then the last boss fight does not have a back, okay? And so the eggs don't have a back either. So you want to have as much critical chance as you can to take advantage of the trenchant crits. Heavy melee attacks deal 31% more damage. Okay, that's what we're going after here. If you look here at the final dot on the 350 chain, it is 15% crit chance while empowered. You're constantly empowered with the greatsword. Anytime you dodge with a skill tree I'm going to show you, then you will get empower in combat with the greatsword. You're just constantly empowered, so you're good to go. If you have berserk on, you're empowered. All right, so you're going to get more crit chance, and it's just, to me, that's going to be way better DPS. Now, if you go Hatchet Inferno, you go 350 strength, 100%. 10% increased base damage to abilities and the final attack in the melee light attack chain, okay? So if you go Hatchet Inferno, then that's what you'll do. You'll do 350 strength. In the hive, it's the opposite because you want more crits. This is the name of the game for the hive. Weapon mastery. Let's go over to the greatsword real quick. That's what I run with the greatsword. Feel free to change what you want. This perk used to be good to take for the mobs to pull them together. It no longer works anymore. Not much at all, so I don't feel like it's worth even running. And that way you can have the skyward slash to apply Ren. Notice if you're in the offensive stance, you'll apply 3 Rens. If you're in the defensive stance, you only apply 2 Rens, so 15% compared to 10%. And then you have Relentless Rush to adjust your maneuverability, or to give you maneuverability to adjust your position. Anytime you do a heavy with aggressive shift, you'll be in the onslaught position, which is the aggressive position. You have the onslaught and then the defiant stance. So onslaught would be the aggressive, defiant stance would be the defensive. And I'll show you that here in a second. Hitting foes reduces greatsword cooldowns, light attack 2%, charge heavy attacks 10%. And then if we go to the hatchet, this is how I set it up for the high when I'm running the hatchet. Be very careful if you do select aim throw, because you will not have a block anymore. Anytime you try to block, you're just going to get ready to throw a hatchet, okay? So that is your block now. And that's not going to block crap. So if the boss does a spin and you have that out, you're just going to take the hit. So I go berserk all the way down the skill tree. I go against all odds, increase base damage for by 10% for every enemy within 5 meters. I have uninterruptible because I think a lot of new players will enjoy that a lot more than just looking at the mechanics. I think it is pretty important. 3 successful light attacks or aim throws against the same target will gain empower, granting 20% base damage increase for 3 seconds or until next attack. Enter berserk mode, that increases all attack damage by 20% for 12 seconds. Huge. That's why you want your cooldowns as fast as you can to keep that uptime high. All right, then you're going to go rending throws. Going to add 20% rend for 10 seconds. And then you're going to get some inherent cooldowns with the throwing the hatchet with the target having debuffs. And then also right here, if the rending throw hits a target with the active debuff, cooldown 20%. If rending throw hits a target with active debuff, deals additional 20% base damage. And rend duration increased by 4 seconds as the target is further than 6 meters away. So this is what I go with for the hatchet. And this is what I go with the greatsword. And that is the greatsword hatchet build video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you have a great day. I was trying to make this video pretty quick and simple so don't waste too much of your time. And I do stream New World from time to time now. It used to be every day, but now with the lack of content or whatnot, I'm kind of waiting for October before I go back to maining streaming New World every day. So we'll see what happens with Season 9, but it's going to be a very light PvP update. Not really looking forward to it. So I'll be making more videos for new players, you know, how to run certain dungeons, how to, you know, different gear loadouts and whatnot. I think we're going to make a long video of all the DPS gear loadouts and just do timestamps. That way it's a lot easier to link. All right. Well, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Y'all have a great day, and later.